All right, today we've got Dennis Black, principal of McGrath Gladstone. How you going, mate?
Hey, Lachy, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
Pretty much real estate is what you're in at the moment, but I know you've had a long history of other career paths.
Yeah.
What were we looking at there?
Oh, look, mate. As I was saying to you a little bit earlier, um, I grew up in Rocky pretty much. So I moved to Gladstone in 2006 it was. But pretty much grew up in Rocky. Started my working career straight out of school. Had the chance to maybe go to NIDA, which is the National Institute of Dramatic Arts. The teacher said you should apply, and no, not going there. So it just didn't seem to really be something that I really wanted to go down the path of.
Yep.
So yeah, did that. Left school and couldn't wait to go and start work. So I applied to all the banks. Back in those days, the banks were pretty good outcomes for people to go to. They had many staff, and it was a very customer focused business back then. So about 12 years at Westpac, then got a bit bored of that. I ended up being the main branch manager in the main branch in town, and then decided, well, what else is on? At that time, I married Sandy and had a young family, so I joined had an opportunity to join the Ergon Energy Call Centre when it was merging all the regional centres across Queensland, and set up a sales team there. Spent 2 years there, and then an opportunity to upgrade everyone and go up to Airlie Beach to run a newspaper, which was something I hadn't done before.
Yep.
But went up there and turned the newspaper around, and then thus after that, a couple of years there, Peter White, who's pretty well known in Gladstone, gave me a call and said, mate, there's a gig down here for you if you want to run our advertising team. So that's sort of where I got to in Gladstone, then worked there for a couple of years, and then moved over to a technology business, think office technology, but it's changed to FX, and then thus landed over in the space of real estate more recently. So yeah.
Yeah, right. Going back to before you joined Westpac, like, did you finish grade 12? What do you say you left school? Or,
Yep. No, graduated, not give away any ages, but 1988. So
Yep.
the year of the old Expo at Brisbane. So it was, it was, I just went to Rocky High there. It was a good school for us then. It was, schools have all changed now. Kids have all changed now. And some days I'd hate to be a teacher, but hats off to those guys. They got a tough gig out there. But
Definitely.
yeah, so, and growing up Rocky, I involved in a lot of sport. A lot of different circles of people. So I moved out of home probably 3 months after I'd started working because I thought I was a big bull and off I could go, and probably struggled many years after that with thought that the board was harsh that mum and dad were giving me, but if I had your time again, you'd probably hang around a bit longer. But, I had to make my own way, so that was a key to probably how I grew up.
Yeah, definitely. So getting into Westpac, what did that process look like? Did you need any certificates behind you, or was it more just job interview, you're willing to give it a crack and they gave you a job on the spot?
Yeah, it was. They normally did a recruiting stage, and back in those days, it was you just applied for it. So I put in applications at all the branches, and all the banks at the time. Look, what I found out of that, and there's not too many businesses out there I think that had this focus, but they all had the same focus back then. I think McDonald's probably still does a fair bit of it now, but to me, a lot of the business success that I've had, I can relate back to Westpac's learnings back then. So they had a real focus on, and look, at people may laugh now and say it's not the same in the banks about their customer service, but certainly it was aimed at customer first and do it right the first time. Every week we'd have a meeting about customer service. You went away on customer service courses. You learned how to greet people. You learned how to engage people. And then I was probably lucky I had a bit of an ability to sell and deal with people. So that made my transition from there, from being 3 months being a clerk in the background to moving onto a front counter. And that's probably where my sales career started, to be honest. It was a time where they just started to bring in life insurance, and the banks had that as one of their diverse arms, I suppose. So, I would just identify leads of, people come and do a transaction. Are you looking at a savings plan, looking in investment, and that's where they'd go. So, you'd get a referral to a financial advisor or planner. So I guess from my perspective, that grounding from the Westpac days and how it was, and I guess they had great teams. They were good-sized teams. There were sporting weekends. There was Friday drinks. The culture was really good. And I still remember that this day. And I've got another friend in real estate who's done exactly the same thing. He puts a lot of his success and where he ended up from our time in the bank.
Yep. Would you say, I guess, like starting from the bottom of Westpac, you could say, like the clerk you said, and seeing all the other people in Westpac, like who are in high positions, does that give you that bit of a, I want to be there one day, and gave you a bit more push to go to work and a bit more enthusiasm every day? Or,
I'll say tricky one because probably when I was younger, no, because they were all generally the managers were older. It was and I remember when I started in the bank, the bank manager at the time was at the main branch was his name was Bob Hudson, but everyone called him Mr. Hudson. So the time in the world was it was still like Mr. and Mrs. Your friends, but not first names. So for me, I had no aspirations. That I had a job, I had a life. I was a young bloke, had mates, and I had sport. So I balanced all that. I never transferred for the bank. I did fair bit of relief work for them around the region, but I never transferred because that's how people used to get promoted. They go and do some country time, but I wasn't leaving Rocky because I had sport on. I had so many things on that I guess I was enjoying what I was doing. And I progressed due to my sales probably ability and my ability to just get things done as well. But I didn't have any aspirations to become the bank manager. It was actually at the point when, after 12 years, that I was looking at, well, where do I go now? And there was a role of a regional customer service manager that might have been something I could step into. But the region he was covering was from like Longreach to Gympie. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's a long way to go at that point in my life because it might have missed touch on a Monday and Wednesday night for me,
Mm.
or playing soccer with a club. That's my 4 nights a week were based on sport. So I just went, no, no. I just went along with that flow really. So yeah.
Yep. I guess that's something that a lot of people actually fall into. It's a bit of a trap where they just go down the business route and want the money, 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 and put their life aside and their mateships and families, and they come to a point later on in life they're like, oh shit, was it really worth it? Putting all that aside and the idea that live your life when you're young, and um, would you say a lot of people, yeah, fall into that trap, and something that you kind of glad you didn't fall into?
Yeah, well, like we all have things that we look back on time and go, geez, I could have done that differently or this differently. And um, but for me, the reality is I made a decision based on what I thought was right for me at my stages in life. Um, and I guess you've got to be happy in life as well. I was some weeks living week to week, um, pay to pay, and
Mm.
I had rent. It was, and I had some, good bit of help along the way, and with different people, and just good friends and all that. They help guide where you end up as well. The real thing for me though is you. I guess even the same thing when I came along having family, I've always had a job. I've been lucky enough to have a job or made sure I got time that I would, the kids have all grown up now, but or grown up to whatever you think is grown up. But for me, it's more about that I still made time to go and watch them race at the school races. A bit like me, I still wanted to got my things done, and it didn't block where I was going. Sometimes I had to work a bit harder, and maybe if I'd isolated 2 nights a week to go and do extra things around business or career, maybe it would be something totally different.
Mm.
But at the end of it, you know, you can't change any of that, and I'm pretty happy with where it all ended up at the moment. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. I guess when it comes to, like you said, you probably you're probably able to, I guess, step it up and get into the business managing role from your sales background and skills. Is that something you developed when you were actually a youngster, or you found that you developed when you started business?
Look, I think it was a blend of things. In all honesty, I think number one thing, and yeah, talk a bit later about it, but communication is one of the big things, and being open and transparent on that piece, and know where people are sitting. But I probably attribute just as much to my what I've done in my career with work as to sport as well. And whilst I haven't achieved any huge accolades. You know, I managed to finally make a state team a couple of years ago for touch football, but I was always involved probably from like when I was a kid, I had a lot of music. So I grew up on the back of music, and that was great because that gave me some great things as well over time. But
Mm.
it's one of those things that I had probably more talent with music than probably did with sport. But then later on, when I actually applied myself to a bit of sport, I once again didn't set the world on fire, but I achieved some things there that, um, possibly could have gone a bit, probably could have done some things a bit differently. But I had a variety of things, and I think variety makes it exciting as well. Like, I played a lot of touch football. I went did some martial arts and judo and Zendo Kai, and then moved over into playing some games of soccer.
Mm.
I had a whole genre, and probably touch football became the one that probably where I not only played it, um, I sort of learnt the game because I didn't play it at school, but I was sort of at the bottom of the tree. When I first started playing A grade in Rocky, one of the guys who was very experienced playing with us, he wouldn't pass me the ball because he thought I was going to drop it. So, but I worked hard at that. I'd get up in the morning, go and train, and that's probably one of the harder ones I did as well. I just got in there and really trained to achieve some goals there, but what that did for me also, that probably introduced me more into the world of coaching. And I've done a lot of coaching over the time, from women's teams in Rocky to other young kids teams in Rocky to here in Gladstone. Probably, I'd say probably the last 10 to 15 years, probably coaching teams and helping teams or helping kids and even young adults and all that here. To me, that's probably helps you be more grounded, helps you when you're in a team environment in your workplace as well. And I think that's one of the big things that I think anyone should probably, if they get an opportunity to help with those sort of things, it does help their career and perspective on what you're doing in the business world.
Mm. Well, I guess that is one big thing is you are involved deeply with Gladstone Touch Association. How much do you think community also helps with your business, but how much is giving back to the community, help you grow as a person?
Yeah, look, and probably reflecting, probably, you know, a place like Glasson, it's a lot of, business to business or people dealing with people. Um, I probably, to get feedback from different people, either whether I've sold their home or done business with them, they've come to me and given me the opportunity to work with them, and no matter what it was, the opportunity that's come through and the feedback was, well, I'm happy to give it to you because look at what you've done with my kids. You've helped them out, and
Mm.
so to me, I don't think of it like that. And I went into real estate with a pretty clear vision that, um, just don't expect people just to come to me because it was me. People will make their own decisions, and the word was don't be offended. People make decisions on other relationships as well, and it didn't mean that they're going to come knock my door down. So for me, it was more around what I do is for what I do
Mm.
to help whoever I can. And, often it was sometimes people that, some of the success I've seen from some of the kids I've coached, I sit back and, you don't worry about the accolades, but you like to see them achieve and help on their journey, because that helps them. If you've got a resume that says you've achieved this and this as a kid and go and get a job, it helps set you up as well.
Mm.
But it's also just working with a team, to making sure that the dynamics and different people and different levels. And sometimes I look at the best player, most talented people in the world, but they got the worst attitudes.
Yep.
I'd rather pick someone who's got the right attitude and want to put the time in and show up every time and learn than someone who's got think they've got it all, except they haven't got the biggest piece, and that's the attitude and the want to improve and listen. So yeah, I think that helps me with my business piece as well. The same thing I've done with any coaching, any staff or any teams in the business world is that the first thing you've got to be able to do is communicate. And the second part is you've got to be able to have the right people to make sure they're engaged to go on the journey and be part of it, not be told or think that they know better. It's about engaging them all the way through.
Mm. Yeah, John Fielder said that last week, last episode, when he goes to recruiting people, it comes down to he picks mindset over skill set all day of the week,
Yeah.
purely, and people as well, who they are as a person. Do they have an ego? what's that? What are they going to be like in the office environment? The metaphor analogy he uses is he going to be a bird amongst a cat amongst the birds, which is what he said, and I thought that was just like that was priceless.
Yeah,
That idea of people in an office space where they are the cat amongst the birds, and everyone's afraid of wanting to negotiate and communicate with them, which is key to success in business.
yeah, exactly right, Lockie. And if people can't engage within their own audience, how are they going to go out there dealing with your clients? And you know what? There's always exceptions to rules, and I've seen many good salespeople and operators, but um, the big one is you still got to, no matter what you do, you still got to walk with your head held high, no matter what you do in the business.
Mm.
And you've got to put in 100%, but you've got to want to help others. You got to be part of the team, because the lone wolf just doesn't really help any person at all.
No, definitely not. So after Westpac, where was it that you ventured to
Yeah, I
next?
went into a call center at Ergon Energy. So
Okay.
I applied to be a team leader. They missed out the first round, and then they called me back for the second round. Knew nothing about the electricity or a call center or that.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about call centers and customer service from that point of view at that time.
Yep.
So I set up one of the sales teams there at that stage. I had a team of about 14. A great bunch, working so closely with people in a small group in a small area. That keeps a pretty tight group as well. But it was more, I learned a lot about, and I still refer back to it these days when I'm dealing with businesses about, how phones should work, how what might be working for your system to make it work best, and how long people want to wait. And there's always research on it, but I did a number of courses internally with them around, customer satisfaction around particularly just call centers, and that's a world in itself. Call center and the numbers that they track to make sure that the analysing they do to make sure that they got the right numbers at the predicted time for calls and flows and all that. It was very interesting. But 2 years within the walls, on the seventh floor at Ergon in Rocky, I thought, yeah, I've had enough time to look around.
Yep. And then that's when we went to the Whit Sunday Times, was it? Sorry, after that?
Yeah, yeah. So I thought I might as well have a crack. There was a advertising manager role advertised for the Daily Mercury, which is within the APN group back then, was about the fifth biggest newspaper they had in their group.
Yeah, wow.
And it read like I could do it, so I threw my name in there. And they said, look, it's one of our big ones. You have an inexperienced newspaper. We'd like you to, we've got a job going up to run the weekly newspaper up at Airlie Beach with Sunday Times. They said, look, it's been run down probably from a point of view of that a lot of the big hitters in town were offside with it, so forth. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, well, no. So I went home and spoke to Sandy, my wife, and Lachlan was about one then. And then Ashley was just going into year 7. And she'd mentioned to us that she'd like to go and live on the reef somewhere,
Yep.
or up in the Whitsunday, or, close to the reef. And we went, oh, yeah, here's the opportunity. Oh, tears. She just started year 7. Anyway, we moved up there. And, we met some really good people up there from our travel there as well. We were there for probably 2 years.
Yep.
And I remember going to a meeting. I thought, oh, general manager of the newspaper, I better get dressed for this, I suppose. So I bought a suit, everything like that, ready to go up there, and tie. It lasted about a week because no one up there wore suits or ties or anything. And I remember there was a part owner up there still, and I went and met with him, and he gave me all the rundowns, the grim stories of how the newspaper wasn't going very well and advertisers weren't spending and because of this and that. So it was a bit of a refresh that happened there overall. I had a new editor join and all that. And I remember going to one of the big hitters in town. She had about 8 shops up there, and I went to meet her. And I walked in and I sat and had a conversation with her. She was like, so who are you? What are you? And I told her this is me. And she said, okay, all right. She said, oh, no doubt you'll be watched. I'm like, oh, great. So I've walked out of there going, what have I done here, And, within about probably 3 months, she was one of my allies. And then that started to trickle some other things, some more introductions. And that then flowed on to more. By the time I'd finished, left there, I was a board member of Tourism Wet Sundays. I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And those are the things that built that community back then. And there was a lot happening up there. But more importantly for me was when we were up there, we met a lot of good people because it was very transient, but it was starting to get more of a stable population. So a couple of our good friends that we catch up with now, we met them up there and we're still very close friends with them now. So to me, it wasn't just about that gig or that role or what we end up doing up there. Whilst we turned the newspaper around greatly, we got lifelong friends out of that as well. So that was always a tick in the box there too.
Everything just comes back to people, who you know, pretty much.
Yep, and how you treat them.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely. So you obviously had a lot of experience, and I think from there you then went to EFX. You said, or at the time it was Office.
Yeah. I came back down here. I was at the Observer for a couple of years.
Oh, sorry. Yep, advertising.
Yep. So I came down here, looked after the advertising team here, and yeah, we sort of rejuvenated that a fair bit then. And once again, it was a pretty good crew there as well. Once again, so just thinking about that is, normally there was the advertising manager, which was me looking after all the advertising revenue, and then you had the editor who was responsible for the right content and stories being and put in there. And I still remember, like, for the 2 years we were there, Matt Overnan was the editor at the time, and they're still very close friends of ours as well. And, I remember people didn't quite understand that there wasn't an editor and an advertising manager clashing. We actually worked together.
Yeah.
Without taking anything away from anyone, where I wanted that ad or he wanted this story or we got to run this on this person. We had a very good understanding of each other to the point that, even in that, we had a bit of fun there. We brought out a men's magazine here at the time and put it in the paper, and we did our own cookbook. So we just had so much fun, but it was really unheard of that I guess paradigm of these two different parts of the business actually working together. And for me, that made that time really enjoyable there as well. And then once again, in a good spot, with that, and then got the opportunity to go and move into which Think Office, then it changed over to FX. So that was an office technology spot. And I remember when I told them I'm leaving the paper to go and work at Think Office Technology, they're going, that's the photocopiers. I said, yeah, you don't even like the photocopier. You don't even like filling the paper up. I said, no, correct. But it's an opportunity for me to go into, I've always been in the bigger businesses, but a private company and helping them grow. So straight away, once again, got in there, looked at the list of who we had. It was a very successful business. One of the pre-OVO owners, which was Scott Toms, and Brett Beaumont and the Gilberts, all that. So I was part of that group. That's when I sort of moved in with all those guys, and they ran a very good business. And I was proud to be part of that at the time as well. So, but straight away, as soon as I started transitioning, I went around to all the customers I knew. I said, look, if you want to keep doing business with me, you have to change over from that to this.
Yep.
And had a very good success rate with that. So it was a pretty good growth phase for us then again as well.
So I guess you've always, in a way, liked a new challenge to build new skills everywhere you go, because everything you've done has kind of been different. It's been a different market, different avatar in each business you've joined.
Yeah, and it comes back to the old sales adage, I guess, is that it's just the widget that changes, and it's talked about in so many sales books. The widget, that's the product. It doesn't matter to me. It still comes back to the people you deal with, the relationships, and how you can communicate and do what you say you're going to do for it.
Yep.
That's the secret in sales. It's the wanting to do one step further. They're willing to just actually make a call to them without calling them to say, hey, do you want to buy this? It's having a relationship that you can walk down the street and say good day and stop and have a conversation. So many people lose sight of that so easily. And without that relationship, or then that referral from there, that's the referral piece afterwards is the cream on top. But look after what you've got, and then that makes a huge difference.
Yep. So from there, that's when you've gone to real estate?
Yep. So just a couple of changes happened, and just went, had to go and decide what I was going to do. And I had a couple of opportunities maybe to go still back into the business world. There's a couple of good opportunities. But I was at home and Sandy was coming home saying, "You got a job yet? You got a job yet?" And no, so which I wanted to go and find out what I was going to do. And just once again through sport, had a couple of contacts and was approached to, whether I wanted to go into real estate. Now, I've been offered over the years many times by some of the principals in town, come and work for us, and just didn't even really have a look at it. I was happy and content with what I was doing. So I went, yeah, yep, sure, let's have a look at it. And so it all sort of ticked off. And one of the reasons that I went down that path was didn't have anything to lose. And it's something that people had who I'd been talking with in confidence had a belief in that I'd be able to do it. My business partners, they all were right behind it, and Ainsley from Bundaberg McGrath, he was recommending me from Gavin, who I'd played a lot of touch football with, as someone that they could look at. So I guess from that point of view, that's how that conversation started, and we sort of talked about it a bit. And for some of them, and even from McGrath's point of view, they're going, "Who's this guy? He's not from real estate. Are you sure you're doing the right thing?" That was the question that they were getting asked, and Ace was getting asked, like, "Yeah, how's this going to go?" And I guess he backed himself and his judgment, I suppose, and probably what he knew about me. I guess from that point of view, then is where that sort of started to go, and then went and got my license, and I contacted probably a few of the main principals in town personally and let them know that, look, this is what I'm doing, because they're all great people, and I'm coming into their world. So I just was conscious that over the years, I'd sold other products to them. Now I'm sort of coming into their world of selling real estate. So I mean, and once again, caught up with most of them and said, this is what I'm doing. And the reasons I said I didn't want to come into there and then go, thanks for the information after 6 to 12, and then go and do my own thing. So it was a fresh start for me, a new brand, me being new to real estate, and just to go out and apply what I knew and add in all the other bits and pieces from the interest I'd had previously, to try and make that work. That was what I was doing.
So what are the new challenges that real estate's mainly brought up to you in terms of being a different game? It's very similar to what you've done sales, but still a different market in a way.
Yeah, look, probably for me, it's probably more. I've generally dealt with business to business, realistically, before. Apart from when I was in the bank, it was like you're dealing with personal customers, but all the other stuff's sort of been business to business, client to client. So that was probably the biggest changer. I've never really sold. What would I say? Can be an emotional product, like cars. I like the red. I like to look at that sporty. A house is going to sit in a mold of someone's going to make an emotional decision, whether to sell, whether to buy, what they need. So it's all based on what they need to get that result. So I guess that was probably the biggest thing that I hadn't found it too hard, but you had to be conscious of that space. And to be honest, like, I mean, there's certain sales that you walk away going, yep, and you walk away and go, that was a transaction. That was, yes, I've helped this person here, but the buy, it's for an investment. So it's a bit of a different transaction to say you were coming to buy a house and you really wanted it, and you got two parties that just, it might have been a family home that you come buy. I really love that. It just gives you the sense of satisfaction if a seller can walk away with the right money for their property, and some of them are parting with great memories. So you got to manage that piece with it, and then also you coming in as the buyer, that you've got what you've been looking for as well, and you know that I'm happy. I've got what I'm after now. I lived here. I want to live here. It's great. So that is probably the best sales I think you can do, because of that piece around. And you know what? Yes, the home is the home, but the home is still so much the widget piece. Yes, it depends what bells and whistles it's got, but at the end of it, you're still dealing with people. We are a people's game.
Yep. I guess with real estate, it is very competitive at the moment. There's a lot of people getting into it. I think it is like a 70% turnover of people to come in and go out the door pretty quick. I guess you don't want to give away all your little tips and tricks and all everything you got up your sleeve, but if there was little basics that you could give to someone who wanted to get into real estate, what would be the little list to get going of skills I need to bank up?
Be able to communicate, number one. If you can't communicate in this game, you'll either you won't get the success you probably could, or you won't stay in the industry. It's the same with any sales thing,
Mm,
unless you can communicate, or unless you've got that wonder product that no one else can get from you, and you've just got to come to it. You've got to be able to communicate and in the right way and at different levels. The world of communication for me is, I'm happy to have a conversation. I'd rather talk to people than send them an email.
mm,
But there's still people out there that would rather an email. There's still people out there would rather you just drop them a quick text. So you've got to know your mark and what best channel to get to that person to get the right responses and answers and outcomes. And then press the flesh, shaking a hand, meeting someone. It's still the biggest thing I think that people need to do. And you're right. At the moment, it's very hot market in Gladstone, and I'm no expert on the market, so I'm not even going to talk about the market. It's a hot market, but the biggest catch for people will be that they get caught up just being able to do business from their desk, and that won't always be here. You've at some point got to go and meet people and to sustain where you're going in your career. So your communication is the key. Your ability to multitask and follow up. So many people will just do something and not follow up, not get back to them, or give realistic timeframes. I guess the old adage of what is it? Some people out there overpromise and underdeliver. I always think that in the back of my head, you've just got to make sure you keep it real. And if those are the key attributes, and then just working on getting the right team. Like we're growing our team now. I've got a policy of won't say it on here, but I've got to have the right person. We're looking for, we want another agent. We want, we've grown our property management piece. So once again, we hit a point when you got to go, no, we need to now increase what we're offering here to sustain the great service we've provided so far. If you don't invest in that, you'll lose what you've already worked for. And the other piece is, you've got clients, look after them, follow them up, treat them on a relationship, as in just a quick call, say good day, because you never know when they're going to do something or change. And to me, that's a secret, is just always be in touch with the people who are going to pay you at the end of it. You've got to keep them on your radar to make sure that they don't look elsewhere. If you forget them, they'll forget you.
yep. Coming back to, you did talk a little bit about it earlier, but when it comes to managing your time, obviously you've raised your family, you got Lachy, Tayson. Sorry, what's your Sandy's daughter?
Ashley, yep.
Ashley, you
Yep.
got Ashley as well, and she's got her little man. Little man, is it?
Yeah, and also there's 2 grandkids. Yep.
Yep.
So so once again, it's yeah, we look at school holidays now and go, well, what are we doing school holidays? Because there's nothing to do now. Because I don't know, for the last, let's go, probably during high school more so, but there was always sporting carnivals on, whether it was for football or whether it was for
Yeah.
touch football. That was our holidays, and the people you meet then on those things from the associate with the families,
Mm.
they've formed a lot of our life and long time friends as well. So we go away to all those things. Now we go, okay, well, what do we do? Like, Tace is still at home. Lockie's pretty much moved out, and Ash is obviously with married with her 2 kids. But the big piece there for us is it's always, we've been lucky enough. I think Gladstone's a great spot to raise your family.
Mm.
People always look for better, but you still get opportunities out of here to go away for sport. Like both Ashley she got here in year 9. So she straight into Tallulah from there, and she was vice captain of school. So she achieved some things with that. And she played, netball and all that. And then the boys came through, and I think Lockie was vice captain. Tace was the one that missed out on that, but he was a house captain. But I think they've all had the opportunity to go and do sport, grow up in a smaller community. I actually left here for about 3 or 4 years. I think it was straight after school. I'm out, even go to uni, and she's back here married with kids. So, and Sandy was a prep teacher up at St John's for 12 years. She's just recently changed jobs. So for us, this is home. And I guess having kids go to school is where you meet so many more people, not just through the sport bits, but just through schooling. You meet so many people. But I still think opportunities are here for anyone like that. Like the boys both got apprenticeships at industry. Um, and now you sit there and think you got away from some of that stuff, but we've got the grandkids now. So now I'm end up back down there at 4 o'clock every Monday coaching Taji's touch team. We sponsored Zara's little girls team. So I'm back down there. I'm going, I thought I was away from this now, but back there helping out again and coaching another group of young boys that hopefully, there might be a star in them down the track. And I go, I've forgotten how to do this. Like it's totally different. I'd rather come along and, coach the older boys and go, right, we know what we're doing, off we go, let's do it. But, and yeah, proud of where everyone's ended up here. And they sort of, one of them may end up in real estate one day, who knows? But at the moment, they're all happy doing what they're doing. And they're going down that similar thing where they've enjoyed their sport. They still do their sport as a balance. And I think that's a key for a lot of people. You've got to have some other interest outside your working life. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there who are just multi-successful, but at some stage I feel that they're going to go, geez, what did I miss out on? And I didn't want to miss out on that. So I always made the time or worked a little bit harder here to get to that, to make sure that you watched your kids grow up.
Mm.
That's a very, because I've been there now, it goes fast.
Yep, definitely. Over the years, have you had many mentors, and how much of a part have they played in your success?
Yeah, look, there's been a few. Sports wise, there's probably a couple of people. Gavin Shuker from touch football. He's very successful business wise as well. So I've learned a lot of him over the years. Currently, Ainsley from the real estate piece. Learning a lot of him about his experience in the real estate world. And even back to Brett, Scott, Evan and Sue with Think Days. They gave me they were really good to work with and learn bits about. And Brett was very entrepreneurial as well. So I've learned all off different aspects of people. And there's been some great, what's the word? Some great just people along the way that you've met that you go, wow. Like I met a guy. I reported through to him. He was in Mackay when I was at Airlie Beach newspaper, and he, let me see, he just drove their revenue through the roof, but he had a big expense bill as well. So, but he was out there. He was charismatic, and so you learn bits and pieces around that. You probably wouldn't go to the lengths he went to with some of his entertainment, but at the end of it, he got a success for the business, and he's a very good operator. Even when I came here, like Peter White, he was when I was in the newspaper here, he was a pretty good mentor as well, and he introduced me to some other friends around from that he'd had as well. That you sort of can go and talk to some of those people, and and I guess that's where I've probably got a thing is, in that you're at an age where you can deal with younger people, you can deal with older people, and like some of the people I deal with now that are older than me, but they've always given me the time as well, and they give you the time to have a conversation, you listen, and you pick up lots of things from different people. But the big thing is you've got to listen and see what they've done. They've all travelled different roads, and if you take one piece out of some of those conversations or what they're telling you, you never know, it might help someone else or help you even. So, yeah, so that's what mentor-wise, I've never engaged in I'm going to have you as my full-time mentor.
Mm.
I've just taken the bits and pieces out of what I pick up or learn along the way. And realistically, it's no point picking up something and unless you actually don't probably apply it sometimes or give it a try. And so, but my other rule is you've got to have energy. If you don't have energy, it's very hard as well. So, you try and stay every day, you get something that comes back to you and go bang. But I guess the best way to handle that is just by, just push it aside. If I miss out on getting a listing, I'll put it to you, I taste vomit in my mouth. But at the end of it, you got to move on from that really quickly because that can then just spiral you down. So I just review it quickly. And that's one of the biggest secrets, I think, talking about it all is that review it, understand it, check with someone out and get their feedback as well. So just a third party to find out what could I have done? This was the scenario. What did I miss out on here? What do you think? Get the truth, get the honest feedback out of it, brush it off, and go to the next one. If you sit there at the back of your mind going and presenting the next one, you're sitting in your back of your mind again, resilience and that ability to go, right, that's gone, that's finished with. And don't burn bridges, because you never know, if you do that, something can always change. But if you burn the bridge, they're not going to come back across it. So keep it open and respect them, but always, I generally find myself offering that, look, if anything changes, please let me know, because it's professional and they'll remember that still no matter what. I've had some where, where you've missed out on, you've gone to help them and, So I've had some young buyers competing in a really hot market, and they've come and I've given them as much advice as I can about what they do with their offers, and they've missed out a couple of times to cash buyers, which they can't compete with. But I remember I was talking to one of the young ones that had missed out on a home, and I probably caught up with, because I followed them up and said, hey, still looking, it's still the same sort of thing you look for. No, we've got somewhere we're settling, and we said, that's fantastic. Look, sorry I couldn't help you. And she turned around and she said, you did help. You did help by taking the time to help me understand a few more things, which no one else is willing to do. So to me, in where I'm going there is, I've helped her. I'm not going to get a result now. But if she goes to sell that in 2 or 3 years, she quite possibly could ring me, because of the time I spent with her then, that she knows that I actually have a passion and want to help people. So, that's everything doesn't have to be now. It can be 3 months, 3 years. You just got to keep building that. That's your pipeline.
It's good having that long-term vision, eh?
Yeah. You can't sit here and go, oh, what have I got to do? And real estate's like that. Unless you've got this many listings, this many appraisals, this many listings, sales is a numbers game. It's been said so many times. If you don't have prospects, you don't have sales. If you're not doing the work to get the prospects, you're not going to have the prospects, you're not going to have the sales. It just flows hand in hand the whole way through. And I think people often lose sight of that, especially when times are good. People can lose sight of what's actually organically growing their business.
Yep.
And then it stops. They go, well, where's our growth gone? What are we doing? Well, I've forgotten how to do this. So you got to keep your basics still going through. There's no rocket science here, mate. You got to keep the basics going throughout the whole process.
Coming back to when you're talking about energy, you got to have energy in business. Where do you find that energy? Do you find that purpose in supporting your family, or where do you get that energy from?
It's a balance. It's a balance. It's being proud of your kids and your family and whatever they're achieving as well. To know that they grow up and they've all turned out good. That's a great relief for a parent. And something you've done along the way. You probably heard this from your parents as well, but you sit there with your kids, you're going, oh, geez, that's a rotten kid. What's he doing? Blah, blah, blah. But they go to a mate's place. Parents go, oh, your boy's so lovely. You're doing something right when other people comment. At home, different story. But that sort of stuff can, mind you, that can make you start the day really bad too, especially when they're younger. But for me, it's a balance of everything. Like, you got to have to get your energy creates energy. So, camera's up here, which is good, but carrying a couple of kilos. But I've now made a commitment. I'm actually going to the gym 3 times a week, and I'm going down to touch and all that, because I've got some goals I want to achieve. That also helps create the energy, because the old adage of energy creates energy, I think it's right, and it's hard sometimes, but you've got to do that to get yourself going. The energy I get is out of, even if it's Sarah has a win in the office with in the property management, or I have a win, you get that energy, but you get that energy just from talking with people as well, because sometimes you get off a call and go, geez, that was draining. It's just natural. So then you've got to pick what you do next to get to the next call and make it a better call, so you get your energy back. You've just got little things you can do throughout the day. If things aren't going right, you need to have that, just stop, breathe and go. But it goes back to what I said before. You've got to have another interest, or multiple interests of, I go down to touch Mondays and Wednesdays generally, and, a few of those sorts of things I've got happening. that's important because it takes you away from what you got on tomorrow sometimes. And now in real estate, it's not quite 24/7, but I get messages at 6 o'clock in the morning from people. It's like, that's okay. I'm up and I'll respond. I'll do it then because gets that out of the way and you don't forget it. And then that can also drain your energy if you forget something and you go, well, what was that? And suddenly you're going backtracking, trying to find stuff. Sometimes you just do the quick 2-second, yep, no problems, or it is what I'll do and get it done, rather than having this whole list of things. I guess I go from, some people are more, this is my time now, I must go over here, and that works for them. But the piece I get probably say here is that you got to work what works for you, but get bits and pieces. So sometimes I go back and stop and do a bit of a restructure of, okay, now I want to do this, so I need to start scheduling this in better, because you'll always lose sight of it by being busy.
Mm.
But I think if you can go in there and just go, right, you can go like a cat on a hot tin roof some days, you got to, but you then have the ability to come back and go, right, what have I got to tick off to get done today? And most days I'll just write, right, tomorrow morning I've got 1, 2, 3 things to do. That's my priority tomorrow. And then I'll leave that because that's my start to the next day. I already know. And that definitely helps because you've got lots of things happening and things getting thrown at you different times. And because, look, I want to be responsive, and what can create the biggest anxiety for me is not getting back to people. I remember going away to a real estate conference earlier this year, and I learned a big lesson. So I had a couple of properties all in a sweet spot at that time. At that time in the market, they were just in the sweet spot, and there was multiple people. There was multiple offers. So between these two properties, I don't know, it was just huge. So I launched them before I went to this conference on this weekend. So I had to leave Saturday afternoon. So I did my opens that morning, and the conference was full on. It was like all day Sunday, all day Monday. When I looked at my phone and I could feel in my pocket ringing on silent, and looked at my phone and I had a list like this long of red numbers, I'm going, oh my God. I got through it, but to me, it's like I could manage that better next time, or work out a plan on how I can handle that with either someone else maybe helping take some of the calls. But those are the things that can create a big spiral, but it's a good problem to have.
Mm.
But you've got to make sure you're well planned and you learn from that experience. So if I did that again, I'd make sure that I'd have plans for either whatever's happening around that time to make sure I do get back to those people. Because what happens if they don't hear back from you because you're in a session for 2 hours, they ring again. So it just multiplies.
Yep.
And a lot of people out there, that's the biggest struggle they'll have. So I go, some people go, oh, they'll ring me back. I won't. I want to make sure I get back, because to me, that's an opportunity that someone wants to give the right price for someone at that house.
Mm.
So you got to give them a call.
I guess that's another thing too. Your failures, the bigger the failure, the bigger the lesson out of it, and the bigger the opportunity from that failure to grow and be able to conquer that. Like you said, literally did the opens for that conference, 2 days of conferencing, all these phone calls. You're never going to do that again because I guess of the pain. Not it was like extremely painful, but you just like the headache that caused. You're never going to do that again, and it's probably the greatest way to learn is from your biggest failures.
Yeah, and people they're probably got an expectation sometimes. I'd say that sometimes people are too busy that don't get back to them, but it's probably my own expectations that probably build that a bit as well, that I want to get back to them. And at the end result for that one, I just remember I was getting on a plane at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd run the open. We'd called the office of closing the next day, and I had a call from a lady, and she said, "Oh, I wanted to have a look at the house." And I said, "Oh, look, I'm just about to board a plane. We did have an open." And she said, "Oh, look, um, they'd been looking desperately for a property. Her husband had a medical issue and a few things that stacked up." And I said, "Look, I'll see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." I saw them, and they bought the home. So, and they were the best offer. So if I hadn't taken that call because I'd had enough of this whole, 2 days worth of red numbers on my phone, if I hadn't taken that time, the owner doesn't get their best offer. So to me, it was still an opportunity, and I still took that. And I guess everyone reaped the rewards for my effort to still look after a customer. And I think that's what you take the positives out of. Then you go, geez, hectic, wouldn't like that happen again. But the end result was pretty good but still it's something that you'd manage a bit better to help everybody. Yeah.
I guess that's the thing with real estate too. You're not only nurturing the sellers, but you're also nurturing the buyers. Like you're saying, if they were to sell again, or even the buyers even refer to you to someone who wants to sell their home, they're like, oh, we had a great experience buying our property through Dennis, and then that just creates more business.
Yeah, mate, it's without a doubt, and it's just someone at a barbecue. Oh, you sold your house, yeah, and such, and that's how most of the guys have been so successful as well. It's not just I'm not providing any secret sauce here. It's it's people out there like dealing with people, and if you do a good job with them and do everything right by them, they will recommend you or put you on a list with, oh yeah, I've got 3 people I'd recommend, 1, 2, and 3. If you're in that, if you're swimming in those lanes and you get those opportunities, you'll be successful, because the hardest bit is to get the opportunity to talk to someone. Then it's up to you how you manage that and get the expectations. And you never win them all.
Mm.
If you go in there thinking you're going to win everything, that's when you will become very despondent and upset, because you, you just don't win them all. Because once again, some people, believe it or not, they will do something. They'll like a certain person as well, as in what they may do or say. Or some people may not like someone with some energy, and some people might like someone that's just yep, blah blah direct. And so there's different, the old spectrum of, there's different buyers for different sellers. So, and different people get along with different people better. Um, you know, it's if they do that 4-piece thing where I think you got the lamb and the bull and the peacock and the whatever other one, the one in the middle somewhere is, once again, you see all those things and what characteristics go best with which trait. It's with buyers and sellers as well, or people who want to list with you. That some of them, oh, no, I don't like you. I can't be offended by that.
Mm.
Sometimes it's not the right fit. You're not going to change that.
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing too. Like we're in an era now where advertising and marketing is like massive, but word of mouth always seems to be the one that brings it home. Brings it home for the win.
Look, I've said this before, and I often still relate to it. Is the even when I was with photocopiers and at FX at the time, there were some really good salespeople. They were metro. And I still say there is a huge difference between a metro sales and a regional sales. And I say that because metro sales, they look after their pockets as well. So they don't look after, oh, I'm a Sydney salesperson. It might be a certain suburb or a certain area. So they do a lot of that because they just can't penetrate the whole area. But from my point of view, a place like Gladstone, with its population, people know people. And you've got to do the right thing because that will help grow it. It's easier to meet people. You walk up the street, g'day Bill, g'day Lachy, or whoever it is, you'll see those people on a regular basis versus some of the ones in a metro space, because just the nature of what we are as a community. And I'll probably say that I know in the metros they've got those smaller communities, but here there's the kids' sports, there's all these things all aligned that all bring it into that people will know who you are if you do it right. And hopefully it's for the right reasons. And that's why I think very importantly, my career's been helped without a doubt from having kids involved in sport, school. It's such a big feeding ground of opportunity for people that you get to meet people. People when they move to town without children, it generally takes longer to meet different people and be social because they don't have that network of school friends. It's such a huge piece, and that's pretty much laid out, ready to go, and that's what helps people in business in these sort of areas. It's that community, sport, kids, whether they're on committees, helping out with things. It just creates your network, or your circle of influence.
To finish off this episode, some words of wisdom. Someone getting into entrepreneurship, real estate, wants to be a future business manager of a bank, anything, what would you tell them?
Probably be patient. You got to back yourself. And look, I think have the ability to talk to people, depending what it is. If it's anything to do with people, you've got to have the ability to work on how you talk with people and your customer service, because it's a skill that's not out there anymore. It's not taught anymore. We expect people to know that from why they've been brought up. And once again, I suppose it's the old thing is be polite and punctual and respectful, and the old like ladies or gentlemen, like it doesn't hurt to open the door for the lady. Like it goes a long way, and that's what you like to think the kids are being brought up with as well. I think they are all the time, and I think that's our future is just trying to get that sort of ethos out there that that will help anyone be successful if you do all those right things and have the ability to talk to them. I've always had a saying that success is the big picture and you're part of it. So that's something I've had for a long time, probably since I was at Ergon Call Centre. I had that little line there that success is the big picture and you're part of it, meaning that it's not just here and now, but you need people to help you along the way. So I think that's the key for it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today, Dennis,
Thanks, Lockie.
and all the
Cheers.
best with McGrath into the future.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.